Maureen O'Hara, Arabian princess? Hey, friends. Now, a while back, I made a video about a movie called At Sword's Point, which starred Maureen O'Hara as, of all things, a swordswoman. That's right, she starred in movies where she was a swashbuckler wielding a sword with the best of them. This time, I have 3 more movies for you, all starring Maureen O'Hara as an Arabian princess. Okay, I can hear the Twitter kids screeching already. Yeah, all right, sure. Maureen O'Hara was white and of Irish descent, and it's kind of ridiculous to see her in these kind of roles because she obviously wasn't from the Middle East. But these are classic films, and they were made in a different time. You'd see your favorite stars playing all kinds of roles that wouldn't reflect real life. That was the point. It was fantasy. It was entertainment. And it was the star you cared about, who you were going to see, not necessarily what they were cast as. Usually the studio would just say a star in these kind of movies was a Bedouin, since they were the lightest skinned of the people in the Middle East, and they figured that it'd allow for a white star to play these Arabian characters. In real life, during World War I, the Englishman known as Lawrence of Arabia passed himself off as a Bedouin during his time in the Middle East to explain why he was so pale compared to other Arabs. And he got away with it. So get over it and stop your moaning, Twitter kids. Anyway, Maureen O'Hara. There are few other stars you could picture less as an Arabian princess being white, Irish, and with flaming red hair, since that doesn't exactly convey Arabia, now does it? But that level of silliness is part of the fun. We're going to take a look at the middle picture first. Bagdad from 1949. In this one, Maureen is a Bedouin princess who has been raised in England. She returns to Arabia to see her father, but it turns out he's been murdered. So she takes over the tribe and roots out the bad guys, who include a rival for control of the caliphate and a corrupt pasha who's in cahoots with them. There's also a love interest, a prince who is more or less incognito. Now, originally, this would have starred Yvonne DiCarlo, but she was recovering from an illness, so producers went with Maureen O'Hara instead. Vincent Price plays the Pasha, Jeff Corey plays the second-in-command of Maureen's tribe, and the love interest was played by a guy named Paul Hubschmid. Now, I hadn't noticed this guy before, and no wonder. He was only in Hollywood for a short time. I liked him here. He plays the hero well. A Swiss actor, his most famous Hollywood role was as the lead scientist in the Ray Harryhausen picture, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. He eventually went back to Europe and worked on films there, including a loose trilogy mostly helmed by Fritz Lang. So, how does this hold up? Well, aside from the cast, it's not great. It's very mid. You really don't buy Maureen here, despite her best efforts, and even though she's supposed to be an Arabian princess, she doesn't wear a veil, which wouldn't fly in that culture. She basically says many people have seen her face without a veil, which is kind of making herself out to be a woman of easy virtue in that part of the world. She even sings for an audience, again something that wouldn't fly. It's contrived and kinda weird. The cast does make up for a lot though. Next up, the third of our 3 pictures is Flame of Araby from 1951. Here, Maureen plays a princess who's gonna be forced to marry one of 2 Corsair brothers, and she doesn't want to. Can't blame her, but also can't blame them for wanting her either. It all comes down to a big horse race. the winner of which will determine who marries Maureen. Fortunately, she's met up with a Bedouin prince played by Jeff Chandler, who is after a wild stallion. If he can catch and tame the horse, he'll be the big cheese of his tribe, since this is the fastest horse in the Middle East, and Maureen wants him to race the horse for her and allow her to choose who she wants to marry. Take a wild guess who it is. Again, Maureen doesn't wear a veil in most of the scenes, as you'd expect in this part of the world. After all, this is Arabia, as you can tell from these pine trees. Throughout the picture, it was painfully obvious this was shot in California, and at no time evokes Arabia, either the real place or the fanciful setting of story, song, and fable. A lot of this was shot in and around Vasquez Rocks, where Captain Kirk fought the Gorn, and as we recently saw in my review, where Orson Welles hosted segments of The Late Great Planet Earth. Hands down, this is the worst of the three. It looks kinda cheap, and I think Maureen was definitely slumming it in this one. Chandler is fine, I guess, if you like Jeff Chandler. Lon Chaney Jr. plays one of the Corsairs, and cutie Susan Cabot plays an Arabian dancer. Both Bagdad and Flame of Araby were made by Universal, but Maureen got her start as an Arabian princess in our third picture, produced by RKO. This was Sinbad the Sailor from 1947, shot in glorious Technicolor. Supposedly, so was Bagdad, but it looks very bland and muted. Maybe I just saw a lousy print of Bagdad, but the Technicolor in Sinbad is vastly superior. This film stars Douglas Fairbanks Jr. in his first leading role in a film. Here, he plays Sinbad the Sailor, as he relates his 8th fantastic voyage when listeners are bored by his retelling of his famous 7 voyages. Here, Sinbad and his friend Abu discover a derelict ship. The crew were all killed by a poisoned water supply. Oddly enough, Sinbad sees a window on board with the same design as a medallion he's worn as long as he can remember. This design purports to be a representation of the famous island of Daryabar, where Alexander the Great supposedly hid all his treasure. Sinbad sails the ship into port and discovers other players interested in the vessel, including our baddie, an emir played by Anthony Quinn. Also interested is a comedic barber with a secret, played by Walter Slezak, the unseen villain Jamal, and the gorgeous Shireen, an Arabian princess played by, you guessed it, Maureen O'Hara. Together, they all set sail to find Daryabar and the treasure. But who is the killer, and will he strike again? And what is the connection between Sinbad and the treasure island of Alexander the Great? In the cast, you'll spot George Tobias as Abu, Sinbad's companion, Jane Greer as a slave girl in the Emir's palace, and Alan Napier, Alfred from the 60s Batman TV show, as Aga. Unlike the other 2 movies, this appears to have been shot entirely on sound stages, but I don't think it suffers for that, and the Technicolor is fantastic. It's interesting to see Douglas Fairbanks Jr. doing similar gymnastic stunts as his father used to do, no doubt purposely striking poses reminiscent of what the elder Fairbanks would do during his silent film epics. Of the 3 films, this one is far and away the best. The cast is phenomenal here, Quinn filling the role as the baddie perfectly, Fairbanks bounding about with graceful athletic movements and a larger-than-life personality befitting Sinbad the Sailor, and Maureen O'Hara, gorgeous as ever. This one is pure fantasy and escapism, with just enough mystery to keep you intrigued and a goodly dose of humor to leaven things out. It's an Arabian tale, after all, and the filmmakers appear to have taken that to heart and made a very entertaining film. Gotta admit, I've always loved this picture. Of the other films, Bagdad is better than Flame of Araby, but Sinbad the Sailor tops them all. So there you go, 2 duds and a winner, and Maureen O'Hara as an Arabian princess. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.